Okay, where do I even start? My name is Emma. For the past 6 months, I have been attempting to unravel the secrets of Minecraft PvP by studying the ways of the masters who came before me, and I believe I have succeeded. This all started early last November. I had just celebrated my Twitch channel's 1-year anniversary. I had hit all my goals. Things were going amazing. My parents were finally proud of me. There was just one problem. I had no clue what kind of content I wanted to make anymore. See, this was less than 6 months after the death of Technoblade, one of my streaming inspirations. Every time I logged into Minecraft, his absence was palpable, and I wasn't the only one who felt it. The good people of Val SMP, which had been my main source of content until this point, had all started to go their separate ways too. All the things I'd initially loved about streaming had become at best a source of apathy. At worst, dread. Not to mention the onset of seasonal depression. I swear, why does the Earth do this? You've had how many years to get it right? Just spin straight! I began spending days at a time scrolling through YouTube, trying to recapture the spark that had made me fall in love with content creation, without any luck. Then, one day, I found it. Sitting in the dusty corner of a YouTube suggested bar, a playlist containing all of Technoblade's Minecraft Monday VODs, more than 40 hours of footage I had never seen before. Now, I didn't expect clicking on that one VOD to turn into anything more than me numbing my brain for another 3 hours. The only thing going through my mind was, oh look, new Technoblade content. It's been a while since I've seen anything like this. I know it's bad, please don't come for me. But as I watched it, something changed. Something about this particular video hit me differently. Watching it was the first time I actually felt the world leaving Techno behind. I realized his records were being broken, his crazy, never-before-seen stunts were being replicated, then surpassed. And I hated it. Somewhere in the middle of it, it occurred to me that someday I was going to end up dialoguing with a child in a comment section, and I was going to have to answer that truly unanswerable question. Who was Technoblade? And that was the thought that did it. Having to condense this legend down into a paragraph for the sake of convincing an internet 12-year-old of exactly what they'd missed, the idea of that did more than snap me out of my content slump. It ignited something beyond rage in my chest, and I refused. Even if the passage of time eventually made it inevitable, this was not going to happen on my watch. I was going to do my part to make sure the memory of Technoblade never died. And by the end of watching that first VOD, after weeks of having no motivation, I had a plan. I decided I was going to study him. Every VOD, every video, I would find his patterns, his techniques, learn his playstyle. I would become the very best at PvP that I possibly could be. And then I would guard his legacy and teach others to do the same. And thus, Operation Techno's Legacy was born. There was just one teeny tiny little itty bitty problem with that plan. I am horrible at PvP. In my past decade of playing Minecraft, I have won maybe 20 games of Hunger Games total, and I don't even want to tell you about Bed Wars. I sucked. But no worries, I thought. I'm sure there are plenty of YouTube tutorials out there, at least enough to get me started, right? Wait, why are they holding a fishing rod? What the heck? What's 1.9 and why are people mad about it? What's the difference between a sword and an axe? What? This person says to click fast, but this person says don't spam? Huh? Why is that shield recharging? Are they throwing eggs at each other? Why can't I feel my feet? What's strafing? Where am I? What's a combo? What does all this mean? Hatsune Miku! There were not any tutorials. I mean, there were, kind of. But they all assumed that the viewer had at least some previous knowledge of PvP, whereas I needed the tutorial you give to a 2-year-old who just realized they have hands. Minecraft PvP for Dummies, level 0. But nothing like that existed. Meaning I would have to do this entirely from scratch. What does that mean? It means studying. Actual paper and pen, spreadsheet, graphing calculator, staying up until midnight, thought I was done with this in high school, studying. It wasn't actually that bad. But only because the Minecraft combat wiki is actually pretty well organized. I quickly stumbled upon a hiccup though in the form of a choice. Did you know that there are actually 2 major combat systems in Minecraft? The finer details aren't relevant for this video, but basically you've got 1.8 and 1.9. 1.8 uses swords, fishing rods, and clicking as fast as you humanly can, while 1.9 uses axes and shields and timing your hits carefully. While Techno was proficient in both, all his main game modes, and therefore the majority of the VODs I could study, were all in 1.8, so yeah, your girl chose to start with 1.8. Once I decided that, I then combed the 1.8 combat wiki and put all the relevant information into a Discord channel I created for this purpose, which is still on my Discord, by the way. You should totally join and take a look for yourself. During this time, I learned many important things, such as how many health points each weapon takes away when you get hit, how much health each kind of food will replenish, and that 16 times the damage a weapon gives over your armor toughness plus 8 equals the damage reduction an armor piece provides, in percent. But the more I studied the wiki, the more I realized all this was only peripheral information, vitally useful in specific situations and game modes, but for me, it was the equivalent of going to law school to learn how to drive, when all I really needed was a driver's manual. PvP just isn't something you can learn from exclusively studying the formulae behind it, no matter how awesomely talented you are. There was only one way to learn PvP. It was time to step into the ring. Now, I've gotten some grief from certain people for my next choice. You see, as a Techno fan, wanting to get better at Techno things, it makes sense to play the same game modes Techno played, right? Nope. Bed Wars and Sky Wars are fun, don't get me wrong, but the problem was, no matter how many times I played and lost, I never understood what I'd done wrong because there were just so many variables to keep track of. Also, I rarely even get to do PvP when I play in Bed Wars and Sky Wars because I have a habit of So I swung to the opposite end of the spectrum and chose the game mode with the least amount of variables, something that stripped Minecraft PvP down to its essentials. I chose Classic Duels, a 1v1 game where each player has nothing but iron armor, a sword, a fishing rod, a bow, and 5 arrows each. No crazy tricks, no gimmicks, no fireballs, skill against skill. The perfect place to begin. Still acutely aware of how little I knew, I enlisted the help of my friend Idem as a sparring partner. Now, Idem wasn't an expert in PvP, but they were an incredible help starting out. But I will be completely honest, most of our early sparring sessions were just me trying to convince myself that someone running at me with a sword was not a valid reason to run. Turns out, once I mastered that, the basics were actually super simple. Step 1, sprint at your opponent. Heckin' Lightning McQueen your way across that arena. Step 2, thwack your opponent with your sword. Repeatedly. Do not stop thwacking them, even if you feel like you have it in the bank. Do not stop. Step 3, move back and forth unpredictably around your opponent using your A and D keys to dodge their hits while still hitting them. This is called strafing. Step 4, once you strafe to where they can't hit you, jump and then hit them on the way down. This is called critting. When you crit, it does 50% more damage than a normal hit, so you can win the fight even faster. Step 5, repeat steps 2, 3, and 4 until you are victorious. And that, internet people, that right there is as simple as it gets. That is your level 0 Minecraft PvP for dummies. And it only took me 10 years of playing Minecraft to figure it out. Wait a minute, Emma, you may be asking at this point. This is Operation Techno's legacy. Where does Technoblade come back into this? And to you I say, I stopped studying the wiki. Did you think I stopped studying completely, you fool? For every hour I spent sparring with Idem, I spent at least 2 watching Techno VODs. Minecraft Monday, Sky Wars. If it had PvP in it, I was watching it. In total, I spent over 30 hours studying Technoblade PvP footage in those first 2 weeks alone. I lived off nothing but PvP and the salt of my own tears. And you have to understand, half the time I still didn't even know what I was watching for. I was such a noob. I didn't know what special game-winning voodoo was in that soup he liked to chug so much. I just knew that whatever he did, it worked. So I kept watching and studying, sometimes frame by frame, and gradually I began to know the mysteries of PvP. Pattern 1, attack from behind. Over the years, Techno has developed a reputation as a bit of a juggernaut when it comes to PvP. So naturally, I went into this expecting a very stereotypical brute force, strength-oriented fighter who was just really good. but that is not what I found. Techno is nearly unstoppable in a fight, but it's not because he's stronger, it's because he's sneaky. Chew on this little bit of data. In the first Minecraft Monday, Techno makes the first move to attack someone about 60 times, and yes, I counted. Out of those 60, 45 of them, aka 75%, are from the side or behind. And for a large chunk of them, his opponent didn't even realize he was there until they were dead. Techno relies so much on speed and agility, and his main strategy, which he uses 3 out of 4 of the fights he enters, is just, this person has their back turned to me, time to commit a stab. Backstabbing. Literally. Well, you know what? If it works for him, then it works for me. So how do I apply this? Unfortunately for me, the reason this works so effectively for Techno in survival games is because his opponents are distracted by loot, by chests, by other opponents, or because they're already running away. But none of these things exist in classic duels, most of the time. So let's think this through. What does Techno gain by attacking from behind that he can't get when attacking from the front? Is there some kind of principle there that we can use even when attacking from behind isn't an option? The answer is yes, and the principle is the key concept not only to this, but also to about 90% of all PvP. Whenever you can, put your opponent in a position where you can hit them, but they can't hit you. This is why hitting from the side or from behind is so important, because the only way someone can hit you in Minecraft is if their crosshairs are on you. And that only happens if they're looking directly at you. So how can I attack someone from the side or from behind if they're laser focused on me? Pattern 2, the stutter step. In the very few encounters I found where Techno attacks someone directly rather than being a little sneaky boy, he uses the exact same move every single time. First, he runs directly at his opponent rather than strafing on approach like some people. Then, when he's just out of his opponent's reach, he strafes sharply to one side, and that puts him in this golden spot where he can hit his opponent, but they can't retaliate at all. Of course, his opponent can easily fix this by turning a few degrees to face him, but psych! As soon as he gets 1 or 2 hits in on one side, he strafes to the opposite side of his opponent using their own movement against them. So once again, they can't hit him. In basketball, this move would be called a fake out or a juke. Students of Sun Tzu would call it an application of chapter 6.5 of The Art of War, but in Minecraft we call it a stutter step. Complicated in explanation, fairly easy with some practice. When executed well, it's enough to throw most players off their game. By this point, I was roughly a month into my PvP journey, and I was already seeing massive improvements. I'd been tracking my wins and had already gone from winning 3 out of 50 games to 1 out of 5, and the stutter step pushed that up even further into the 1 out of 4 range. Now, I'd made a couple progress update style TikToks, but after learning about the stutter step, I decided I wanted to turn it into a PvP tutorial series. So I started with a quick explanation of the stutter step, and that video got people's attention, to say the least. I still remember, I was out looking at Christmas lights with my mom when I realized I was suddenly mutuals with 2 creators that I'd been following for more than a year and had been huge inspirations for me. I completely flipped out. I think I might have actually scared my family. Anyway, up to this point, I had people I watched to learn from, but I didn't have anyone who was actually able to come in and tell me what I was doing wrong. But with this new influx of followers came several experienced PvPers, not the least of which was Evelyn Streams, who knows more about Minecraft PvP than Einstein knows about physics. They started talking about things I'd never heard of before. Hit registration, hit selecting, W tapping, jump resetting, ping, but mainly they had a lot to say about my click speed. Click speed is super important in 1.8 PvP. In 1.9 and above, you can only click and get full damage on your opponent once every 20 ticks, which translate to roughly once a second. And yes, I know what a tick is now. Fear me. But in 1.8 PvP, you can technically click as fast as your fingers will let you, or as fast as the server you're playing on can register your hits, and still get full damage each time. Ergo, the faster you click, the more damage you do. Some people, such as myself, are perfectly fine with the regular single clicking like anyone with functioning fingers can do. But there's also something called butterfly clicking, where you alternate using both your middle and index finger on the left click button. With a bit of practice, this can double your click speed. Also on the table is jitter clicking, where you tense the muscles in your arm to the point of them actually jittering. You can get insane click speed jittering, but do be careful with this one, as I have known people to break bones in their wrist if they use it too much. There are a few other ways to enhance click speed, like double clicking, drag clicking, and auto clicking, but these 3 tend to be frowned upon by many in the PvP community. Hacks! A lot of my PvPer friends have click speeds somewhere around the 10 to 12 clicks per second range. Mine is around 6 to 8 clicks per second. 9 tops. But click speed isn't everything. I've seen several people click faster than humanly possible and still lose. And Technoblade, arguably one of the greatest PvPers of all time, had an average click speed of like 6. But Emma, what could cause such a crazy phenomenon, you may ask? Well, no matter how many times you can click in a second, you will never do a single point of damage if you cannot aim! Which was the other aspect of my gameplay that Evelyn had some things to say about. Aim should be as simple as put your crosshair on someone and click, right? Well, let me answer that question with a little question of my own. Where on someone's little Minecraft body should you aim? Minecraft isn't like real life. You can hit someone in the hand, in the foot, in the chest, in the head, and it'll still do the same amount of damage each time, so it doesn't seem like it should make that much of a difference. But if you look at Techno, his hits are always grouped around shoulder height of his opponents, and there's a reason for this. Each little Minecraft avatar has to be within 3 blocks of something or someone to hit it, but that reach doesn't start at their shoulder or their arm, it starts at their eyes. If you're aiming at someone's feet or legs or even their chest while fighting them and they aim for your neck, then because the hypotenuse of a right triangle is always going to be longer than its 2 legs, they're going to always have a small amount of space from which they can hit you, but you can't hit them. And that's a problem. Stay in school and aim for the head. Now, when I first got into PvP, I thought if I had any asset available to me, one thing I could count on to be good at in the arena, it would be aim. I was wrong. And I don't even know how, okay? I have like scary good aim in Bed Wars and always have, even before studying. I've been accused of aimbot. But for some reason, when I try to translate those skills to duels, I literally cannot even keep my crosshair on someone. Hey, at least I can only get better, right? I tried playing this game called Aim Labs to improve. It helped a little. But in the end, I decided the best way to actually get better was to duel. And duel I did. I committed to playing at least 100 games a day, win or lose, which sounds like a lot, but being a person who does pretty much nothing besides Twitch stream and edit TikToks isn't an awful time commitment. Even so, it took me ages to even collect the 50 wins required for the first milestone. When you play Hypixel duels, you're awarded a fun little cosmetic title based on how many wins you have, with each division requiring exponentially more wins than the one before it. These titles are Rookie, Iron, Gold, Diamond, Master, Legend, Grandmaster, Godlike, Celestial, Divine, and Ascended, which caps out at level 50 with 590,000 required wins. The division titles are a built-in way for players to set goals for themselves and track their improvement. It helps break up the monotony of what would otherwise be just grinding wins. And you may be saying to yourself, is a title really that big of a deal? Trust me, it took me 5 days of dueling and 300 games to amass the 50 wins required for Rookie Division, and the moment I got it, I was already clawing for the next one. I flew through Rookie Division in 1 day, and Iron Division in a little over a week. 100 games a day adds up fast, and even if I took some days off, by the time I reached Gold Division, I was already at over 1,300 total games played. But I still continued to study, always wanting to improve. I began to implement W-tapping into my playstyle. When you're sprinting at someone, the first hit you land on them actually does a bit more damage than the following hits. However, if you spam tap your W key, or whatever key is your forward key for left-handed people, it resets that mechanic, so every hit counts as a first hit and gets that first hit damage bonus. This is really easy and really simple. Do this. I also started spending time studying the funny little quirks of knockback. This also became the 3rd TikTok in my fun little PvP tutorial series. Knockback is one of the things that you can get by just fine in PvP without knowing too much, but it's crucial to understand if you want to excel. When someone gets hit with something in Minecraft, be it an egg, a snowball, a sword, or an arrow, they get knocked away from it a small amount. But that's not the only thing that happens. If your opponent is running away and you happen to have some throwables on you, knockback actually takes away someone's sprint for a fraction of a second, which, though it seems counterintuitive because you're knocking them away from you, can actually help you catch up. Lastly, knockback pops someone up in the air just a tiny bit, and this is important, because knockback is actually the key to starting a combo. Unlike in Star Wars, having the high ground is not necessarily a good thing in Minecraft. Anakin totally would have won this fight if it were in Minecraft. Oh yeah, we're pulling out this graphic. If you're standing on something and have to look down at your opponent to hit them, because again, reach begins at your eyes, then all they have to do is hit your feet, and they're doing the same amount of damage you are, except they have a chance to hit you while they are still out of your range. But the person on the high ground doesn't actually have to have ground under their their feet for this to still apply. When you utilize knockback to get someone just a little bit up in the air, they now have to aim down to hit you, while you're free to keep your aim level. With a bit of practice, it's not difficult to find the sweet spot between where they can't reach you, but you can reach them, allowing you to get multiple hits on them without them ever being able to touch you or the ground. Throwables are super helpful in starting combos because you can use them while you're still out of your opponent's reach. And if you time it right, you can stay out of their reach if you enter the combo right after hitting them with the throwable. Another unique way to start a combo is to let yourself get hit once at close range and use the knockback they give you to crit them on the way down, because critting does a little more knockback, allowing you to start comboing them. This is called hit selecting. So if you find yourself on the receiving end of a combo, what do you do? Well, firstly, you could just not take knockback. A wise tactician once said, "Knockback is a choice." Oh wait, that was Evelyn. But actually, there are a lot of ways to limit knockback. For one, the faster you click, the less knockback you take. No one knows why. It doesn't make sense, but we take advantage of it anyway. You can also use jump resetting, which is where you jump right as you're hit, almost like you're jumping into the hit. I have yet to master this one, but it is scarily good at eliminating knockback. Like, unfair good. The last one is the simplest and easiest, in my opinion. Knockback got you into this mess, knockback can get you out of it. I haven't mentioned the fishing rod up to this point because I wanted to talk about all of its aspects together. They look really intimidating, but they basically operate just like an egg or a snowball. If someone gets you in a combo, just nail them in the face with a fishing bobber. The resulting knockback should be enough to get you out of their reach, giving you time to recover. Fishing rods have one other really cool, unique thing they can do. If you hit someone with a fishing rod and then immediately switch to hitting them with a sword, you can kill them incredibly fast. This is called rod critting. Just like the click speed knockback correlation, no one really knows why this is a thing, but we use it anyway. Maybe because it isn't actually super common knowledge, and even if you do know about it, it requires enough mastery of timing and hotkeys that it's not common to use it, at least not on purpose. Speaking of hotkeys, if you don't know how to hotkey, like I didn't, totally recommend. The scroll can only do so much. All this information was gleaned from months of tedious games. Hundreds of them. On December 29th, 2022, I received a master rank. I had officially won 1,000 games. At my lowest, I had to play 20 games to win 1. That number was now only 4 games. A couple weeks into the new year, I received a belated Christmas present in the form of a proper gaming keyboard, which pushed my performance even further. I began tracking each individual game, each individual player I encountered, in an attempt to know my enemy. Did you know that roughly 80% of the players on Hypixel Duels hack? Oh, you want a source? I've got their names. I began to beat even Evelyn, the decade veteran of PvP, the person we'd nicknamed the anti-cheat because of their ability to take on even the most blatant cheaters. I achieved Legend on January 26th, putting me at 2,000 wins. This was an achievement I celebrated with my followers on stream. There we go, guys. We just achieved Legend Division on Hypixel Duels. I had won this with my blood, sweat, and tears. I had achieved so much in such a short time. But little did I know, the most difficult part of my journey was still ahead of me. Legend is the very last division title that a player could feasibly get accidentally. And achieving it meant that I now had to amass 600 wins before even advancing to Legend 2, much less Grandmaster. Not games, may I remind you, wins. At this point, I had dropped my 100 games a day down to 50 for mental health reasons, and I would win 18 to 20 of those games at most. I had improved so much since I started, but I still felt like I should be better. And as days turned into weeks without hitting another milestone, when I'd been getting one after the other for months previous, the fire that had ignited in my chest began to die down. I kept playing, but my numbers began waning again, as mindless grinding took the place of voracious learning. And the longer I went on, the many gimmicks and tricks I took such pride in learning now no more than tired muscle memory. I began to wonder if I'd stopped progressing altogether. I began to wonder if I was supposed to. When I was a kid, I was known for being quiet and reserved. People assumed that was just my personality, but truth be told, I was scared. Scared of doing anything on my own for fear I'd do something wrong. I could get up and sing a song in front of hundreds of people, but they were never my words, my thoughts, never even my own choices. If I did have a choice, I would always put myself in the background or out of sight. somewhere no one would see if I made a mistake. As silly as it sounds, Minecraft PvP felt like the first thing I did deliberately. Confronting someone, clashing with them head on, even in a video game, went completely against the grain of my personality, what I thought I was, and what was expected of me. I got to Legend 2 on April 4th, but the victory felt hollow, and the words which had been used to describe me all my life played on a loop in my mind. Pacifist, wallflower, mediator, the neutral party. Never the fighter, never brave enough for it. But I'd already disproven that. I'd stepped out of my safe little world already, and I'd done amazing things. So why were all my insecurities surfacing now, after being quiet and being proved wrong for so long? I didn't have an answer. There's an old Bible verse that came to mind while I was drudging through PvP one day, which says, "Do the things you did at first." And so I took that day off and just went back to watching Techno VODs for a day. Not to study, just to watch, like I had on that first day all the way back in November. I understood most of his tactics now. I'd watched each moment frame by frame. But watching him again just to watch, I began to understand how my mindset had shifted. I'd admired Technoblade as a PvPer, but somewhere along the way, I forgot that PvP wasn't what made him great. He had an underlying, insane understanding of what was possible and what was best. He was efficient like no one I've ever seen, not just as a gamer, but in every area of his life that we had the privilege of seeing. And even beyond that, he was just a good person. Kind, determined, uncompromising, full of humor. He cared about the people around him so much and gave everything he had in everything he did. The more I see of him, the more convinced I am that he was the kind of person who only happens once in a generation. So yeah, who am I kidding? I'll never be on his level, but isn't that the reason I started? Not to be a flawless fighter, but to keep the legend of Technoblade alive by embodying the lessons I learned from him. And what were those lessons? To blaze forward without fear, to see the opportunities in the details others overlook, that progress is always being made even when I don't see it, that even the largest mountains can be scaled one handhold at a time, and most importantly, that all the expectations and reasons in the world can't take away the fact that I am the one who chooses who I want to be and what I stand for. 6 months ago, I picked up a sword with the intention of mastering it for the very first time. Since then, I have played 13,500 games against nearly as many opponents. Since then, I have mapped countless playstyles, beaten novice and master. I have studied wisdom written thousands of years ago and collaborated with fighters from around the world to understand the road before me. I have dissected the defeats of the past to engineer the victories of the future. I have looked into my own eyes in the mirror of my blade, and for the first time, I know myself. I reached Legend 3 2 days after his birthday. I have won 3,200 games. They say it only takes 10,000 hours to master a skill. I'm 1/5 of the way there. So, let's keep going.